It is a glorious time we live in, my dear hunters. Monster Hunter Wilds has been announced, and it warms my heart to see so many of us just chomping at the bit for the smallest bit of information on the game. The only concrete piece of information that we can pour over, though, is the short 90 seconds ish announcement trailer at the end of the Game Awards 2023. Late to the party, as I usually am, I went abroad on vacation right after the trailer was released. Pretty much all that can be said has been said about the trailer already, and when I came back, my PC had melted. Well, it's a story for another time. However, I'm not here just to rehash the words of other creators or to simply waste your time. I believe I have noticed a few things that I have not seen any other creator talk about, so I shouldn't waste too much time on things already said or speculated, but I will go in depth into those things that have as yet, to my knowledge, been unsaid. So feel free to skip around the video to any part you would find relevant. This video is time-stamped for your convenience. We start with a shot of peaceful herbivores grazing in what appears to be steppes, and there's a metal spike in the ground that we later find out are lightning rods. We get a closer look at these creatures that most people are likening to pangolins, and I'm inclined to agree. One important note, though, is that there's quite a clear case of sexual dimorphism going on with this species. Assuming that the spiky ones are male and the smooth-shelled ones are female, their colors represent another more iconic couple in the world of Monster Hunter: gold for female and silver for male, just like the rare rat species, Silver Rathalos and Gold Rathian. That being said, I do think the color of these creatures play into a bigger theory, which we'll come to later. Moving on, then, we go to a small herd of different herbivores, which don't seem that interesting to me at the moment. They look a bit like bipedal wildebeest. Coming in from the bottom right are a pack of very small monsters that remind me a lot of Compsognathus. The interesting thing in this shot, however, is the flying wyvern over there in the distance. It's a bit far away to tell, but to me it looks like a paolumu, or based on its colors, I think it would more likely be the desert-dwelling variant Nightshade paolumu. Now we see a storm brewing, and here comes our hunter riding atop a feathered mount, being chased by a horde of stampeding large monsters. Large monsters have not appeared in multiples in actual hunts in the series as far as I'm aware, so I'm actually hoping these are a new tier of monsters like medium monsters. As we see the rider and mount from the back, we see a great sword, a mounting knife, the right side pouch with the stock of a light bowgun peeking out, what appears to be a rolled up tent, what seems to be potions and perhaps other consumables in the left pouch. Now, we see the monsters that were chasing us absolutely wreck our pangolin friends. Getting into the meat and potatoes of this, Monster Hunter obviously has fictional animals, but they're often based on real creatures. As such, these bear dog things remind me most of Tibetan Mastiffs, an absolute unit of a dog that are of course the goodest of boys in real life, but they can look absolutely terrifying. The creatures in the trailer are in all likelihood fang beasts more closely related to Gosharag, though, because they have the same sort of markings and stuff on their forearms. But the far more interesting implications of this creature is that it's shaggy and extremely furry. This is not the kind of animal that you would expect to find in a desert, but rather in the tundra. This lends further credence to the theory that we would have large interconnected biomes, a la the Guiding Lands, on a massive level, because if you ask me, these creatures were either chased or have given chase to or from something from a snowy region. We see a storm rolling in and the stampede rises to a crescendo. Our trusty mount goes full-on quadrupedal in sprint mode, and we see that this storm is just absolutely lousy with lightning, striking here and there, and we also see that the male pangolin Spike is a lightning rod as well, and when the hunter strays far from the safety of them, are prone to strikes, barely escaping one here. Then we see our mount, jumping from specialized jump points denoted with blue minerals, and we cut to lightning striking one of those rods in the ground, and some symbols light up, most likely indicating that it is artificial in nature. Suddenly, our mount spreads its wings and starts gliding. Here, I'm sure a lot of dinosaur fans came to the same conclusion I did. This creature is based off an Archaeopteryx. Have a little look at this wonderful drawing of an Archaeopteryx. The likeness is obvious and it is quite an interesting creature. It is one of the links between classic theropods that we all know, like velociraptors and T-Rexes and the birds of today. Our mount has a very similar body structure, and although the actual Archaeopteryx, whose name means ancient wing, was roughly the size of a raven, it is believed that all known fossils are those of juveniles. Of course, even an adult can't do what our mount here is doing, but Monster Hunter is all about taking real life animals and concepts and supersizing them. Finally, we see the dust blowing away and, strangely enough, immediately uncovering a river along with the grass, but let's let that slide for now. There's a large flock of flying creatures far off on the horizon. Their movement indicates powered flapping flight, but that's about all we can tell about them at the moment. And then Capcom presents Monster Hunter Wilds. Oh, that made me so happy. Some ripple effects and the logo, and then Rathalos swoops in from the top right just to let us know that we're not dreaming, as another flock of bird-like creatures come in from the top left. Cut to black. And that was a look at the trailer on a surface level, but there's so much more beneath the surface. So come dive in with me to the land of theory crafting. I am of the same mind as a lot of others that the world of this game seems to be South America inspired. As such, if we were to look at the logo again, we see two prominent serpents flanked by four lesser ones, which brings to mind perhaps the most famous of the Mesoamerican deities, Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl, whose name roughly translates to the feathered serpent, is known to be a benevolent deity, while his twin brother Xolotl is usually depicted as the mirror opposite. Looking at the logo, it's plain to see that while these two serpent dragons are similar, they are not the same. Furthermore, it appears that each serpent has two lesser ones originating from its body. I am certainly not the first one to make this connection, as channels such as Rage Gaming Videos has commented on these serpents most likely being inspired by Quetzalcoatl and Xolotl as well. I did a little digging though and found a text written about Quetzalcoatl that really fits it into this puzzle piece. Loosely translated from the Nahuatl language, the text goes: Quetzalcoatl. He was the wind, the guide and the road sweeper of the rain gods, of the masters of the water, of those who brought rain. And when the wind rose, when the dust rumbled, and it cracked, there was a great din. It became dark, and the wind blew in many directions, and it thundered. Then it was said, Quetzalcoatl is wrathful. Now, if that doesn't describe what's going on in this trailer to a T, I don't know what does. Of course, we are deep in the land of speculation here, so take everything with a good helping of salt, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Much has been said about weapon swapping and underwater combat making a return. I tend to agree with these statements. The ripples showing up when the logo was revealed was too watery to ignore. That being said, in keeping with the South American theme, it would be so cool if aquatic combat took place not just in open waters, but also in giant cenotes, which are basically gigantic holes formed in limestone reaching down to the water basin, some of them going quite deep. We could have a whole joint cave system biome. I think we could have excellent monster interactions there, and I really hope that they can bring back Nakakos, because he would absolutely thrive in that kind of environment. As for water movement, I think our mount being semi-aquatic as well as semi-arboreal is not too much of a stretch. Going by the Archaeopteryx comparison again, those fossils were found in areas where shallow seas were once found. So I think it's possible, but I am so down for having a dedicated water-based mount as well. At the end of Iceborne, when the hunters make the decision to further investigate the new world, there was always the question of where in the new world we would go. It appears as though Wilds has given us a glimpse of exactly what that is. There's still the question of how we get there, and I believe I have a believable theory for that. In Monster Hunter, golden monsters are actually a rarity. Sure, you have Gold Radian and things like Shagaru Magala. And of course, if we are talking golden monsters, we cannot forget Goldilocks herself, Cove Taroth. But for the purposes of this theory, let's ignore her for a second and focus instead on her biome, the caverns of El Dorado, a vast sprawling network of subterranean cave systems literally dripping with gold. And here we see it affect the endemic life to an enormous degree. All of the life here, from the bugs to the bats to the linians, are all covered in gold, which leads me to think that our pangolin friends from the Monster Hunter Wilds trailer may nest there as well. The plains would be far too dangerous for eggs and juveniles with the storms, predators, and lightning. If so, it is likely that our hunters have reached this part of the New World through the caverns of El Dorado as well. Also, in keeping with the South American myth theory, El Dorado is a real-life myth about a lost city of gold somewhere in South America. So I think this lends further credence to the possible inspiration behind Monster Hunter Wilds. The last theory that I would like to talk about is the lightning rods in the ground. It is apparent that the rods have been there for quite a while, meaning they were put there most likely by the ancient civilization, which means whatever threat it is that is causing these lightning storms have been around for probably centuries, if not millennia. If this were the case, and I know this theory in particular is pretty out there, what if our hunter accidentally stumbles upon new ancient civilization tech? We already have things like the switch axe and charge blade that uses ancient civilization technology. Perhaps a new weapon? I do have an idea for a fabulous one, and once I learn how to animate it, I'll show you exactly what it is. But more to the point, what if we stumble upon something like an equal dragon weapon? The equal dragon weapon was conceptualized ages ago, but it was only last year that Capcom officially licensed it. So maybe they have plans for it? If our hunter accidentally activates it, that will be quite a battle, to say the least. And since we killed Fatalis at the end of Iceborne, of course Fatalis, according to lore, can't be truly killed, but at least he's down for the count, it will fall squarely on the guild to deal with this threat. Although to be fair, that I think a wild storyline like that will only feasibly happen in the Master Rank expansion to Wilds, if at all, and not in the base version. Looking at the mountain that's been turned into a donut in the middle of the map here, if that was the work of a creature, it would take something of immeasurable power on the scale of the old legends to do that. That's all for the theories for now, but since I am unlikely to make another video on this subject unless new massive information were to surface, I'll list off a few things I would like to see in the game. First and foremost, I want a sense of exploration in the game, a nomadic hunter who is self-sufficient by what the land provides. The kind of thing there was in Final Fantasy XV would be pretty cool, and with the rolled up tent our hunter carries, this may not be far off from becoming reality. Building on that though, I would really like to see a base building feature. I don't know how most of the Monster Hunter community would feel about this, so maybe something like default bases for those who aren't interested in this feature would be cool. But I for one cannot get enough of it. You should see the absolute monstrosities I've built in games like The Sims or Subnautica. Next, I would like deeper minigames. Previously, we've only had a fairly bare bones fishing minigame and the barbecue minigame. A more involved and complex fishing game would be excellent, and if you're going to be a nomadic hunter, a levelable cooking minigame would be great. Then I would like a multiple biome spanning siege fight, something that would be a visual spectacle and really keep us on our toes. The problem with Monster Hunter siege fights in the past was that they were practically all awe-inspiring and great to look back on, but in practice, rerunning them became sort of a slog. I proposed that instead of everybody just dropping in and playing the same fight, there would be sections of the siege only accessible to certain groups. So let's say some hunters chase the monster on a vessel, some would use mounted combat, and some fight it as per usual, but you cannot take on the role of those in the other areas. This way you could replay the same siege from multiple perspectives and farm enough materials to get the monster's weapon and armor or whatever without getting bored. And lastly, I would really like a fight against an evil hunter. Now, I hesitate to even say this because of the door it opens. I do not, under any circumstances, ever want to see PvP in a mainline Monster Hunter game. I think the positivity and the support of the community would shrivel and die in an instant if PvP was a thing. However, as a canonical narrative thing, it would be really interesting to battle another hunter whose intentions are to bring calamity to the world. It falls under the purview of the guild to eliminate all such threats and sustain harmony in the world. So there you have it. I just needed to gush about this because Monster Hunter is a game that truly transformed the way I actually game, and I have such a deep love and appreciation for the game, the developers, and the community. Thank you so much for watching this video, and let me know if you agree with me or if I'm way off. I would love to know if I've missed something that you guys caught. See you in the next one.